Today's guest is Sam Ziman. He is a strategic account executive at Global CI. He's in his second year as a board member for AFCEA Bethesda Emerging Leaders, which is an amazing group that I like to participate with. He's also a graduate of the ACT-IAC Associates program earlier this year in 2023, which is where Sam and I first met. So thanks for joining me today, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeremy. I've been watching these for a while now. I'm really excited to be on.
So for those who have not had a chance to interact with you in a program or hang out at a happy hour, talk about yourself. Talk about where you're from, who you are, and what you do.
So I grew up in Ellicott City, Maryland. I went to school at Mount St. Joe, which is people from Maryland always bring up their high school because we know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. That is a trait of a small state. And then early on, college was kind of difficult to figure out what I wanted to do. I was having more fun than studying, and it took a while till later for me to go back and officially figure out, okay, this is what I want to do. And I ended up going to Colorado to do that, which was a lot of fun. Highly recommend Colorado, but also just leaving your home state, I think, is a really good experience for anyone as well. It's a great growing experience.
Yeah, step away from your safety net, step out from your parents' umbrella, make good or bad decisions on your own.
We'll deal with them, right? That's a big part of it. I think, I went to a lot of schools, and for some reason, I did well in high school, and then when it didn't translate to college for me in terms of self-discipline, right? You know, going to high school, you get dropped off in the morning, or you drive there, you're there with everyone else, same mission, same classes, same assignment, right? And you go through it all. And then I went to college, and no one was checking, right? No one was white, and I was like, oh man, this is kind of great. Enjoying it. And then you pay for that later when everyone else is done and they're working and having fun, and you're like, no, I got class in the morning, and you're 26. It's true that you're never too old to go back then. And it was just, when I finally did go back, I was ready, right? My first semester, I got, many semesters after that, I got a 4.0. I graduated magna cum laude, 3.8 GPA. And I could not have done that before then. And I was surprised I could do it then, but I was happy that I was able to. And in between those years, I used to box, and I had really great coaches. I never thought I was going to be a professional boxer for a second. I didn't like getting punched in the head that much, even though I was really good at it. Getting punched in the head, not boxing. My coaches always said, Sam, you learned the hard way twice. And I always thought that has stuck with me for all things. And now at 33, I kind of look at a situation and I try to, have I burned myself once already here? Is this about to be the second time? Or do I want to go through that first time at all anymore? And, I feel like some kids, not referring to myself as a kid, but some people at like 18 years old had this foresight, and it took another 15 years for me to get it. But it's a really interesting perspective. I think that choosing what you want to do for college is less important at a young age. I think you could try to go that. I mean, it's amazing when someone knows what they want to do, goes to college for it, graduates, gets into the work field, does it. Wow, right? Wow, yeah. I think that's incredible. The reason I was in school for so long, and I really was in college for 11 years, and that's how long it took me to get a bachelor's degree. I went to school in Philadelphia at first for accounting.
Okay.
I didn't personally enjoy it. And for the classes that I went to, I wasn't doing so hot. So I ended up coming back to Maryland, and I got a AA in exercise science. I haven't used that to this day, not even in my personal life. So then after that, I decided I wanted to be a physical therapist for some reason. I was like, you know what? Bachelor's was so easy. Why not go get a doctorate? So I guess they call it pre-med technically, or pre-PT, one of those two. I was basically on like a biology track, and I'm going through it, and I'm just not loving it. Just not loving it. And that was at UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And I'm, at this point, I'm 25. And I don't know if this is unique to my generation or the generations that followed or before. I basically had like a quarter life crisis. I told my girlfriend of 8 months, I'm moving to Colorado. I'm leaving. And she was like, okay, I'm coming with you. And that was awesome. She's now my wife. We've been together for 9 years coming up. We have a 10-month-old kid. So that was awesome, but it was born of this idea, like, I got to get out of here. And I had to go experience life differently. I couldn't keep running in the same circles. I just couldn't stay in the same area. But a part of what born that is when I was 14 years old, I got a job at a birdseed store. It was just right up the street. I could walk to it. And it was owned by a bunch of elderly women, and they couldn't pick up a 40-pound bag of birdseed. And I was playing football in high school. I was like, this is great. This is easy. I come in, I unload the trucks, right? I bag the seed there, and it was a great relationship. And I worked there all through high school, and I loved it. It just mindless, right, work. And then later, I started working at a bicycle shop as a bicycle mechanic. Race Pace bicycles, they were recently purchased by Trek, and so they're Maryland-born company. They're now Trek. But one day I'm coming out of their brand new store in Ellicott City, and right across the street is a new location for this place called the Wildlife Authority, where I started working when I was 14. This is 11 years later. And then in the parking lot next to me was I think it was elementary school, the Young School. I went to the Young School for elementary school. It's a private school in Maryland. And I was like, I was almost dumbfounded when all three of those things happened to me. And I was like, man, I have not moved. I've been standing still this whole time. And so then that's when I moved 2,000 miles away, right? I was like, all right, as far as I can get that I like. And that was kind of what it was. And I think one of the lessons I learned there is that there isn't this perfect time to do anything, right? That you have this idea of, oh, if I get this done and this and whatever, then I'll be able to go do these things. And the truth is, there's always going to be something that's going to come up that's going to ruin that or change it or make you reassess. But while there may be better and worse times, the best time is in my experience, and has always been now. Right. Go now, figure it out. Right. And when I decided to go, I got a bunch of support, right? People were like, yeah, man, go do it. Go figure it out. And I did. And it was awesome. It was really transformative. And then while I was out there, I was a bike mechanic for a while. Because it was a great place to be a bike mechanic. Right. And I worked at University Bicycles, which is the oldest bike shop in Boulder, period, on Pearl Street. It was phenomenal. I learned a lot about business there that I didn't think I would, but they were just this extremely lean, no fat shop, right? They were just machines, and you felt like it. You were part of this machine. You were turning the cog, long hours, but they worked as hard as they partied. Every single person there, no one called out. Everyone showed up every day and just did an excellent job. They had all this quality control. And I learned so much there. And while I was in school, I was like, maybe I want to do business. I don't, I'm fascinated by this and I'm loving it. And while I, haven't really had any other experience with it, maybe this is what I want to do. So that's how I ended up going with an international business track.
Okay.
Which unfortunately, when you have an AA in exercise science and you're a biology track student, means you have to start college over. You barely have the prereqs that a business school requires versus a biology school. So yeah, transferred to the School of Business for Colorado, University of Colorado, and just did it there, man. And I loved it. I mean, for 4 years, it was phenomenal. I loved the case studies, couldn't get enough of it. Loved my teachers. It was just an amazing experience. And while I was there, I was able to get a strategic planning internship. Man, this is in 2017. I'm feeling old just in this conversation. In 2017, I had an internship with ACT-IAC Energy. They're a very large energy company. I think they're Fortune 500, pretty sure they are. And I should write an apology letter to everyone I worked with there, because I just cut my teeth on that whole company, right? They've hundreds of thousands of employees, and I had no idea, right? I didn't know office etiquette. I didn't know I didn't even understand like office politics, right? I just, I was just like I was a 26-year-old dummy in this place, and I was surrounded by really professional human beings, and they were so patient with me, and they brought me along, and they were just, hey, this is what it is, and this is how it looks from here. And it was phenomenal, right? I mean, it really helped me grow up, to be honest, was just having someone there being like, this is a new place, right? This isn't the kegerator in the back of the bike shop.
Right.
Where I was, I was excellent there. So here it was very different. And I'm still friends with those people today. And it was just such a growing experience. But I will always be haunted by so many awkward experiences due to I didn't know what was right or wrong or what what was really going on most of the time. And man, those are the things that keep you up at night sometimes.
That's interesting, Sam. So because I know you're still early in your career, but you're going to have that feeling multiple times through your career when you try a new role and go, okay, I think I'm ready for the next step in my career. Let me try that role that I know absolutely maybe just this much about, and it's really this much that I need to know, right? But you'll get better at hiding it, rolling with it.
Yeah, and while that will happen, a part of what I feel like is I have realized that even though I know mountains more than I did then, now I'm so okay with being the student. Before, I didn't want to be the student. I wanted to be the guy that knew, and a folly of youth or whatever. And I didn't know, which was the worst part about it. And now it's like I kind of know, but I want to learn, right? Like that's what I'm here to do, and that's the only way I'm going to get good at it. And knowing that means all those mistakes are just a lesson, right? And that's what helps the most, I think. So that they haunt me less, but they're written down now. They're documented. So that was good. And then after that, there was a couple more jobs. I did data analytics for a while, sales analysts. And eventually I started doing market research for the company that I'm at now, helping them develop a new product, a new software. And that was really interesting too. And I was in a meeting and it was going well. And I was like, guys, I think instead of market research, I think I want to do sales for you. I think I want to help move this product. And that's kind of the end of the story there. And I've been here ever since. It's been really great. But it was a long journey, I feel like, to get here and to figure it out. Ironically, I started working retail when I was 14, and now I'm happy doing kind of retail again at 33. So this is a long track back, but it's been a heck of a journey, and the people you meet along the way is phenomenal. And then you enter this GovCon community, and it's very unique, right? Part of it is a lot of us are doing work that changes the way the country operates, or the way an agency in the country operates, or makes the whole experience for us as a user interfacing with a federal agency changes. And I mean, and that perspective in of itself is unique, and it's awesome. And then to go to these events that we've been to so many of, and everyone there is just the nicest human being and the most helpful. right? And every time I go on a new venture, I have, several people that I could reach out to, and they always pick up the phone, always respond to the email. And it's just awesome. It's such a great place to be. I wish I'd known more about it growing up. I feel like this was something I never considered ever. I was never like, oh, I'll go work adjacent to the federal government. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity for that, right? To present that, especially to people that live in the DMV, right? That's always an option. So many companies do that.
Well, I mean, you make a really interesting case for something I've thought a lot about over the years, which is finding your community, your work community, right? We spend a lot of effort and time finding our friends, fostering friendship through the years. We have a spouse, finding the friend group that are as a family we're going to interact with. And the same thing really goes for work, right? There are work communities. So GovCon, as you're talking about, is a big one, right? You and I both participate in it. It's a huge community. Everybody here in the DC area. And it really extends beyond the DC area, but it's more convenient, if you're happen to be in the DC area. But then there are, like, I've met people who have realtor communities, right? Or they're in the tech field, there are all kind of sub communities, right? There's the Microsoft community, all the people who work with their products or whatever. And it is so critical to get plugged into those like-minded communities for what you're talking about. It becomes a support network of sorts. You don't know the answer to something, you can ask somebody, or they ask you because you're part of the network, right? It could be your next job. You find it through that community. And it could be your business friends, which I'm actually a proponent of business friendship. We spend 8 hours a day at work. We go home, we interact with our families, and maybe on the weekends interact with friends. We spend far more hours in our office life. Why not build good, solid friendships there that are just as good as the friendships outside of business? So
yeah, I completely agree with that. I love that idea, because it feels better when you're with your friends, and then competitions take on a new feeling too with your friends. It's more fun. If they win, you're still like, good job, right? But when it is different, then it's like, the other things get involved, right? You're not as happy. You wish you were the one that won, but it's about everybody winning, right? And I think that's another thing, is sometimes industries try to make it feel like there's not enough room at the table, right? But there's so much room at this table. Everyone needs help. Everyone can come to it and sit down and figure out. And there's so much, JV, TA, subcontracting, all of that brings us together as an opportunity. And because those opportunities exist for everybody, right? It's like we're all going to work together at some point. It's going to happen, hopefully, right? If we do well and we have a good reputation, we'll end up on a team together, right? So it just makes sense that, it's your friend group and that friend group, and now we're all friends and we're doing work for the federal government, hopefully.
So did you purposely take a job back here in the DC area? You had escaped it out to Colorado, and did you purposely come back this direction?
So unfortunately, a family tragedy brought me back from Colorado. And that's basically what it was. Initially, I wasn't planning on leaving my old job. I loved working in the medical data field. And I still do that a little here, but now it's, I don't do anything technical at all anymore. I mean, I can barely use an Excel spreadsheet anymore. I've truly become a sales guy. Probably the headache for so many people in my company, but it was quite a transition back, because it was abrupt. I mean, I bought a one-way ticket. It just happened so fast. So that is what got me back to Maryland. But I am glad to be here, especially when you have a kid and you have your family around. That is so important.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So as you've gone through this journey then, and as you said, you had a slightly different path. And me, I like to collect stories about the slightly different paths. I have a slightly different path, right? I had a huge gap in my college experience as well. My daughter's kind of following that same path of not going to college route right away, and trying to experiment in the business world first. And is there something different you would do now? So let's look back and talk to yourself. If you had to go back and give yourself advice, is there something you would do differently than you did? Or or is the combination of what happened, does equal up to what has happened for you today. So I'm just curious what your thought pattern would be about that journey today, right, from today's eyes.
There's no doubt that the path I walked is why I'm married to the person I'm married to now, have the kid, and I'm in the position that I'm in now, which I'm very happy to be in. That being said, there were, almost a decade of self-inflicted hardships, right? I mean, I was always my worst enemy. I inflicted every obstacle on myself pretty much. And a part of me would have just said, and I think that, I think parents try to convey this, but it's like, you can't hear it if you can't hear it, right? Even if they're right, they couldn't make it any clearer, and you still got none of it. But I would just have told myself, like, hey man, 18 to 21 are not the best years of your life. It's just college. And while it might be great and it might be a lot of fun, just buckle down and do what you have to do. Because after that, when you start working, and you're being somewhat successful, and you start making a little bit of money, and you start thinking about buying a house for the first time, which is another journey and kind of a milestone in your life. And you can go on these trips, and really it's like, 24, 25, you start to hit your stride, or a lot of people I knew did. And I was just going back to school, and they were going on trips because they were doing well and didn't have homework or class the next day. And I would have just told them, like, just buckle down for those 4 years. I mean, here's a story. You can decide whether or not you want to even include this in the podcast. But I was sitting in that bike shop one day, man, and there was this guy working across from me. And he was just, like, clearly not a very smart person. And he had bad opinions. And he was just not great to be around. And he had a college degree. And I thought, there is no reason I can't do that. I had put it out of my reach for some reason. Again, being my own obstacle in my own way. And I was just like, I almost went back out of pride. I don't even know if that's the right feeling. I was just like, that person cannot have this and able to do something that I can't do. Right. And I was like, that is impossible. I mean, I went back. Spite is probably more what it was. I went back out of spite. I was like,
motivations come from all sorts of places.
Yeah. So that was like a real eye-opening moment for me, because I was still like, maybe college isn't for me, right? Maybe I'll just do this bike thing forever, bro. That's fine. I was happy in a lot of ways and unhappy in others. And I couldn't be happier that I went back. I mean, thank God that person ended up across from me in the bike shop, because otherwise I don't know, I could have not gone, but I did. And that is what happened. So I think that buckle down for those 4 years and get through college as fast as you can. Those are not the best years of your life. Would have been a really good conversation for me to have with myself, but I know myself back then. I wouldn't have heard a thing, and I would have gone about ending up right where I am now.
I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with that myself. I was pretty hard-headed myself. I know exactly what you mean. So is there something, so as you began, let's concentrate on coming back to DC. I realized it was a bit of an emergency situation, but you still had to find a job. How did that process go? Was it, at that point you had your education, was it pretty easy to find the job to roll into?
Sorry, when I was working in Colorado, right before I came back to DC, I was working for a company called Medtronic as a sales analyst / sales engineer. And on the side, it wasn't what I went to school for. So on the side, I was doing market research for this IT company that I'm at now.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was back in Colorado still. All right.
Yeah. So I was working, I pretty much always had like 1.5 or 2 jobs, right? I just felt like, and I was working part-time as a market research analyst. They were building, and they'd send me whatever, and it worked great. It was symbiotic and it was fine. And then when I made the transition back, they were like, well, we're really starting to move on stuff. And so
that's awesome.
That was when the transition.
That's the best of all situations in that
Mm-hmm.
regard. So you had emergency anyway, and that opportunity came open. So
yeah,
that's amazing. So what's next? What's next for Sam? I know you are doing this board thing for emerging leaders with AFCEA. Anything going on there, or anything else that's popping up for you in the near future?
I think that I'll always stay involved with FC as much as possible, whether I stay on the board or not. It's for, emerging leaders. I think it's just under 40. So I've got another 6 years there, no problem. I'd love to stay there with them. Everyone I've met there, and so many of them, they're just fantastic to work with, right? And I love it. I love getting together, and we're supposed to have a board meeting tomorrow, and we're doing headshots there. I mean, it's just so much fun, and everyone's such a great person that tends to do that. I don't know how we're batting 1,000, but we're batting 1,000. In terms of what's next, I'm definitely going to stay at this company for as long as I can. I really like the opportunities here. I like the freedom. I'm learning so much. The interactions are great, and there's just a ton of potential. So what happens next? Who knows? Maybe some announcements are coming in the near future, and that'll be interesting and fun. But I'm really happy and really grateful to be where I'm at.
That's awesome. Well, Sam, I love talking to you. It's always great to see you. I can't wait to next opportunity where we're at a group at a networking event together. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Appreciate it, man.